Hello, everybody. I'm so glad to have you all back and to welcome registered dietitian Gabrielle. And we're going to be having another talk on our series of eating from our empowered selves. Hi, Gabrielle.
Hello, Sarius. We're so excited to be here again today to really help you guys all, no matter who you are, where you're coming from. The goal is to allow you to become empowered while taking a holistic approach that considers the science-backed personalized nutrition side of things, and then also the psycho-spiritual side of eating and mind-body health, because they're both so important to be paired together for long-term and sustainable change.
Yeah, and we want to be able to really help you listen and hone into what you want from your life because that also determines how we can come about with our bodies and our eating patterns because we want to give you the tools, but we want to give you these tools for you to use coming from a place of your whole self and not just part of yourself.
Exactly. And today's topic is going to be on living with clarity, on your purpose and direction to feeling empowered through health and wellness, but also just life in general. What we're going to talk about the downfall of laser focusing on health and wellness goals, because when it comes down to it, it's about a holistic approach that embodies your whole life. Most people come to me and Sarah with the goals of wanting to lose weight or wanting to have more energy or feel confident, or maybe it's a number on the scale that they're striving for, or a pair of jeans that they want to fit into, or they want to be healthy eaters. But what does it really mean? And how do we even get clear on our why so we can really persevere and see success, but see long-term sustainable success? So really better understanding how to live with clarity and purpose to bring out this authentic self and better understand your why and how it's different than maybe the person next to yours, or what your traits of your future and your successful self. So when you're laying in bed at night and you're picturing the happiest and healthiest, flowing, glowing version of yourself, what does that really mean? And how did you get there? So we can create a clear path that's going to put you on the sustainable journey of your own.
Yeah, exactly. And I love because the good news here, and I think that this good news just like always lights me up because whatever we're struggling with food and body, it's kind of like a doorway into our psyche. So to come up to our bigger why, the laser focused why on our food and body, like this is a struggle usually, but it's showing us to our deeper why. So we can use this as kind of our playground, like our symbolic playground of our psyche to really get to know ourselves better.
Exactly. Because a lot of times these goals, they're just a band-aid. A lot of the times my clients come to me and they fill out an initial assessment form, and their goal, and you ask them, what does health and happiness look like to you? And they'll say, oh, fitting into my size 6 jeans, or losing weight, or I don't want to be bloated anymore. I no longer want to struggle with digestive issues. I want to have more energy. I want to eat better. I want to feel confident at work or with my partner, or whatever it may be. But the question really is what does this all really mean?
Exactly. And that's like where these are messages showing us like, okay, so I'm postponing my happiness until I can fit into those jeans, until I can find that partner, until. And that's why I also see it, like you said, as a band-aid, because then it's we're neglecting what we really want to be right now and postponing it for later because that takes work. It takes work and it takes meeting ourselves. So I know that most of us here probably are willing to do the work, and that's why we're here. So it's not about an avoidance of discipline or work, or it's not about that, but it's about the work of truly seeing the parts of us that feel so dirty or feel so scary to look at and are just put underneath the rug. And the analogy that I always use is it's our rug is our gut. Like we are literally stuffing all of these parts in our gut. And that's why so many times we feel like we eat to numb ourselves, or we feel like we need to eat to not feel something that is showing up and it's being triggered. And this is where the work comes in, right? Like it's about starting to look at these feelings and noticing that they are messages. And food, it's something that brings us a lot of pleasure, but at the same time, it could be the opposite, because when we're not fitting into our clothes, when we're not feeling good, when we're always having pain, food can really feel like the enemy. But again, like food is not the enemy, and it takes some time to kind of like start peeling the layers to this.
Mhm.
And what I realize is that the most important thing is to meet ourselves. And to meet ourselves, it takes time, it takes patience, it takes being mindful and going inwards. And first of all, realizing that it's not about the food and body. It can for sure be a parallel goal, it can be something that we're working on, because there's nothing better than living a life full of health and vitality. Like, this is how we want to show up. But the most important thing is to see what is going on internally and to start embodying the person that we want to be in the future when we're able to fit into those genes, to be that person right now, and how we can start doing that, because that means owning up to life, owning up to ourselves, and feeling empowered that we can actually take care of ourselves instead of neglecting what's going on, because we abandon ourselves, right? And that is the hardest part, I would say.
Exactly. We just need to stop laser focusing on these goals. So when you write down that your goal is, and maybe you've already done this, maybe you've gotten to a point in your journey where you've written down your outcome goals and it's a specific weight or it's a specific way of eating. I want you to really focus on working through exactly what Sarah was just saying of meeting yourself first. So the first step is getting to know yourself more. Where are these thoughts, emotions, behaviors stemming from? And what do they really mean to you? So when you're picturing yourself at that weight or fitting into your favorite pair of jeans, what does that really mean to you? And then what we have to do is we have to build a lifestyle that is going to allow you to engage in stress relieving activities, or doing some sort of self-care, maybe some sort of movement, eating in a way that allows you to feel amazing day after day, because then when we start doing that, these goals will naturally be met. When you start getting really clear on what does success and happiness look like to you, on a day-to-day basis, not on based on an outcome. So taking a number on the scale or a pair of jeans out of your definition of happiness, instead looking inward into yourself, into, okay, what is bringing me down right now? What is bringing down my vibrational energy right now? Whether it is trauma from the past or a relationship or a job, what demons are there to uncover? What kind of work do we have to do to get a better understand ourselves of, oh, what self-care does make me feel really good? What movement does make me feel really good? What food does make me feel really good? What self-care and ways of thinking and mindsets do make me feel really good? That takes a lot of digging. Like Sarah was saying, it takes a lot of work, but you're all here because you want to do the work. So now's our opportunity to take that first initial step of getting to know ourselves, understanding better what happiness looks like on a day-to-day basis rather than on an outcome goal, so that we can engage in those things so we feel amazing every single day, and then they're naturally going to allow us to meet those outcome goals that you have. But we got to stop focusing on the outcome goals.
Exactly. Like, I love what you're saying. And so two things that I'd want to bounce back on. Like, first, it's the self-care. You know, that I realize it can be something so triggering, like extremely triggering, because that means we're getting to know ourselves, right? So if like part of our ego doesn't want to get to know these parts of us, self-care and slowing down with ourselves is a really, it can be like a really scary thing to do, right? Because that means like, what? Like, I need to spend time with myself? What? No. Like, how am I going to slow down when there's so much that needs to be done? Right. So it's like, it's a bit paradoxical. So, first of all, that's why it's such a slow and delicate process, even the self care part, because it's about doing things that maybe initially aren't so much about silence or about slowing down, but just to set the intention that, hey, I want to get to know me. Like, this is important, because I cannot keep on living my life feeling like this drainage of energy and feeling like, oh my God, I need to wake up today, or I don't know what I'm going to do today. Like, that's just not a way to live. And another thing that you said about the goals, you know, like we want to set our goals from like a place of our big why, which is very daunting because we don't know what that is. So it's like really important also that every day we do things and we show up as the person that we want to be, but having an overall idea of who we want to be. Like, what is that person that really makes me feel empowered? And how can she show up in this moment, you know?
But you
And
can't figure that out until you, like you said, you do that work, right? And
exactly.
it's uncomfortable work. And I'm sure you've heard this before too, is like if you start engaging in meditation or yoga or any sort of self-care that makes you slow down, a lot of people initially will say it makes me really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Journaling makes me really uncomfortable. Yoga, mindfulness of any sort makes me uncomfortable because you have been shoving that little voice in your head down, down, down your whole life, maybe stemming from childhood, or maybe something that your parents did or taught you, or emotions that your parents ignored. So you are pre-programmed to then ignore them. So then when you start doing that work, it is so freaking uncomfortable for most people.
Exactly. And one of the like two of the greatest tools that I feel like we can bring to our viewers is, so like when we're setting goals and seeing, okay, for example, who is sitting at the table, who is driving these decisions of what am I going to be eating or how I'm going to be feeling at the table. And the table is symbolic because it could be at the dinner table or it could be anywhere in our life. So it's like, who is sitting at our table? Who is driving these decisions? Whether it's like setting a goal or what am I going to be eating or how am I going to be eating. So it's getting to know our internal family, you know, like our internal table, and setting goals from a place of understanding like these different energies, how they're manifesting in us. And that's where internal family systems therapy comes in, which we'll be sharing down the line. It's super powerful to get to know ourselves in a slow way, and it's very interactive as well as the Enneagram, because the Enneagram helps us see our blind spots. And I think this is going to be our next session where we're going to be talking about the Enneagram, which really talks about our blind spots and our virtues. And it's a map of our psyche and our patterns of why we keep on doing the things that we do. So these things all make it easier and more digestible, because when somebody tells us you need to know what you want in life, what, like, how, like, it's a process.
Absolutely. No. And yes, we're definitely going to be talking about internal family systems work that you do, Sarah, and Enneagram, because I am really excited to learn more about that. I am open to any and all ways that allow us to get to know ourselves better. I even do a workbook called How to Meet Yourself, because it works you through journal prompts and activities and ways of thinking that helps you meet yourself, because most of us have not met ourselves. You know, I have had quite a few clients who come to me and say, I am, 6 years old. I have no idea how I have gained 40 pounds over the last 20 years. I don't even remember gaining the weight. I don't remember getting to these horrible habits that I feel stuck in, these horrible mindsets I feel stuck in. How do I lose weight? How do I feel healthy again? And I said, whoa, I'm not going to give you a meal plan. I'm not going to give you an exercise plan to get to that weight that you were 40 pounds ago. Instead, we're going to figure out what put you on autopilot for all these years that got you to gain all that weight or develop all these unhealthy habits. And we're going to look at those and we're going to work on those. And that's what's going to allow you to be successful. It's not me giving you a meal plan or an exercise plan that's going to allow you to drop 40 pounds. It's going to be to stop, slow down, do work on these types of tools and work through it with somebody, whether it's internal family systems, whether it's Enneagram reading, whether it's going to engage in a couple meditations a week or yoga classes or working through the How to Meet Yourself workbook, whatever it is. And, we got to figure out what makes most sense for you to allow you to get there. But we have to make you slow down and look internally and figure out what has gotten you to where you are now and what's going to allow you to get past it and be successful.
Yeah, and that, like, slowing down, right? Like, it's very interesting to see, like, I'm sure you get a lot of people that have struggles with digestion, right? Because like that's really where we hold in a lot of emotions. But it's like when we don't slow down with our food, when we're eating in an automatic autopilot super quick way, it sends a message to our nervous system to turn on the fight or flight, because we are in a danger zone, right? Either we're battling for food, right? Because we're fighting against, like, our territory. So it's like it takes us into this very primal state, and that immediately, like, automatically shuts down digestion automatically. So it's like it's something that we're doing that is creating like a complete change in our body that is strengthening that pattern that we don't want by not slowing down. But the thing is, when we feel like food is the enemy, how can we slow down with it, right? Because it's like I need to get it done with immediately. So it's like it's really interesting to see these patterns. So yes, a meal plan that would not fix anything if the way we're eating is not being supportive to our system.
Mhm. And not recognizing that mind body connection, which we're going to talk more about in future episodes as well. But you can have the most perfect diet and exercise plan in the world. If you're not paying attention to what your mind is doing to your gut and your digestive health, then it may not support you at all, because of that mind, your mind being so interconnected to your gut health, your digestive health. And like Sarah said, your digestive health, yes, it is what runs your metabolism and your immune system and balances your hormones, but it's also where we store and stuff down a lot of mental and emotional work that needs to be uncovered and worked on. So yeah, I mean, the moral of this story is we got to do the work, right? We have to show up for ourselves. We have to get really clear on what our goals and desires are. We have to figure out what, because you might be listening to this episode like, oh my gosh, I don't know what my goals and desires are. I thought they were to lose weight and to reboot my digestive system. And that's okay if they are. We're not saying that you're wrong. It's that we want to set these goals, you know, what initially comes to mind when you say your outcome goals. And then we want to get really clear on what this really means to you. Everything that Sarah and I just went over is you got to stop in your own tracks. You got to snap out of autopilot and you have to really think to yourself, what does this mean to you? What does that future happy, successful, glowing self look like? What are they doing on their day-to-day basis that is going to get them to feel that way? And then get really clear on that. And that's an exercise to do with clients is traits of successful self, thoughts, beliefs of your successful, happy self, your habits and routines. I'm not asking you what you're eating or how often you're exercising. I'm asking you what your habits, routines, thoughts, actions, and behaviors are versus your imposter version of yourself that has gotten you to this life on autopilot and feeling extremely bad. And then why you want to embody that successful, happy self. Because then when you get clear on that, then things start to become more clear on your journey.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's also committing to the journey and being open-minded to moments of failure and not looking at it as moments of failure, but instead looking as moments to learn and grow and keep pushing forward and knowing that there is no perfect end outcome and that we have to fail. Failure is key for success. It's what shows us where there our issues, or like we're talking about, those demons in the closet that we got to pull out and we have to face, no matter, again, using one of the many tools that we just talked about, and move forward so that we can feel better every day and get to that authentic self, but knowing that it's not just like an end goal, because as humans we'll never feel fully satisfied, we'll never feel fully content. It's finding satisfaction in your morning, in your day-to-day routines, getting excited when you feel like you failed, because it's a moment to learn and grow and better understand yourself and move forward. And so it's committing to that journey, and that's where I do an exercise with clients where you write a letter to yourself, because you're showing up today, but we're going to show up every day, the good and the bad days. We're going to better understand your ways of life, your unhealthy habits and routines, or your mindset, or your dust in the closet that have gotten you where you are now. We're going to dive into healing it all from the root so that you can create this change and feel great one day, but then you're going to also feel great the day after, and the day after that, and the day after that. It's not just this 30-day quick fix. So that we can really create this whole lifestyle that embodies healthy habits and routines, and mindsets that frees you from those demons and allows you to reach these goals, but these goals having a little bit of a different meaning to you than they did when you first came to work with us.
Yeah, and like one thing that I loved about internal family systems therapy is that so like the parts of us that we feel are like the demons are actually just very neglected, abandoned parts of us because they were shamed, they were sent to a corner, they were punished, they were treated badly, they were just not appreciated. And that's why our system had to kind of neglect them, exile them, and put them in a corner and stuff them there. And then we worked all sorts of mechanisms in order to keep them there in that prison. And that could be our perfectionist parts, that could be our overeater parts, that could be our undereater parts, that could be any of the parts that are driven from a place of compulsion, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's this book called The Gift of Our Compulsions. And Mary, the author, she says, our greatest compulsion is the need to struggle. And I love that, because when we feel like we need to struggle, it's because there's a compulsion there, right? We're protecting parts of ourselves. And it's all a perfect system. It, like, our system works perfectly fine, just like the trees grow perfectly fine, right? But there's still some pollution internally that we need to understand. And we need to see how we're working with that pollution, because that pollution is just, it's a staleness, it's a toxicity that doesn't necessarily just come from the outside. It's a whole combination of things. But like our little demons, like many times all they need is food. They need to be fed, they need to be nourished. So it's really about first understanding what's going on, checking our environment, like doing the things that really make us feel joy. And even with the failure, yeah, like we want to set the intention of, when there is failure, how can we grow from that? Like it's not just about resilience, but about alchemy, right? Growing from that into like a exponential self.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and that's like, I'm so excited in doing this work that we're doing, because there really is no end point to this. It's about getting to know ourselves, and also about the satisfaction part that you mentioned. It's really, there's another author that I love, Janine Broth, who mentions how like, oh, we're so craving that chocolate fudge, right? Like we smell it, we look at it, we savor it, and we want that chocolate fudge. But at the same time, and even more than that, we don't want that chocolate fudge. We want our lives to be that chocolate fudge.
Mm-hmm.
We want that to be the way we experience life. So obviously, nothing is going to be enough when we're taking it from the outside, because we eat it, it tastes amazing, but shit, that, like, that's gone now. What do we do with our life when it doesn't feel that way? So how can we change our vision from needing to eat that amazing dessert into becoming that amazing dessert, right? Like, how can we make ourselves so yummy that we enjoy and we indulge in ourselves in life? And that's really seeing like the part of satisfaction, which is, I think, one of the most prominent like patterns that keep us like held down, of how can I enjoy not being satisfied? How can that be okay? How can I make me not being satisfied be okay?
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, where am I choosing to put my attention? Because if I'm always putting my attention on the things that don't make me satisfied, that's another pattern that's going on internally, which is keeping us stuck. But if I can also at the same time see the things that I do appreciate, that I am enjoying, and also of the ways that I'm growing in making the things that I don't like to be better, well, that's another way of living that makes us feel so much more expanded, right?
And that it right there is the key to success. That right there is looking at moments of failure as moments to learn and grow. So it's not just about resilience, like you said, but it's about persevering and learning and growing and getting better through every little road bump that comes up. And then it's finding the satisfaction in the little things, and making moments in your day allow you to have that beautifully delicious dessert as your life, and not having to constantly fill a gap or a void of some sort with that piece of chocolate fudge. Make your life that chocolate fudge, and keep going and keep persevering when things get tough, and keep your head up. Because if you look at everything that comes up in life as, I failed, I'm going to fill this gap somehow, throw in the towel in, all or nothing mentality, then you're just going to keep falling back into that rut and that start and stop mentality, and almost feel like you can never escape. So you have to work on mindset, is really the key component to all of this. And that's where finding little joys and little habits and little routines and ways of eating finding all of those little bits of life that can bring joy to your life is going to be so key. And that's why certain crazy diets and programs don't work, because they're making you eat in ways that don't feel good. They're making you exercise in ways that don't feel good. And they're encouraging you to continue to ignore those cravings and what your body's trying to tell you, or what your body is telling you need to work through to be successful. So I think both Sarah and I's approach is really, the moral of the story is really getting to know yourselves and building a life that brings you so much joy, but also supports you through the not so tough days, and just building a journey that you're gonna love, because you'll always be on it.
Yeah, and the last thing that I would want to add to that is, yeah, it's so important to get to know ourselves and at the same time to put ourselves aside and to see the life that's going on in front of us, right? Because everything is alive. Like if we stop and we feel, oh, we don't feel anything, our bodies are in perfect harmony right now, making ourselves stay alive. So there's so much going on, and we forget that because we're not feeling the intensity. So
Mhm.
by also at the same time of getting to know ourselves, putting that aside and not needing to perfectly know ourselves, because there's no end to it. It's a relationship, but it's also
Mhm.
a relationship with life. And by putting ourselves aside and seeing the magic that's unfolding in front of us without needing to make it all creative and fun and whatever, just being with whatever's showing up and how it's unfolding, like that delicacy, it's another delicacy. It's another like creme brulee, like you want a really nice, like to taste the fine flavors of things. So it's, yes, it's the chocolate fudge, it's the intensity, it's that desire, it's that wow, intense like flavor, but it's also seeing the delicacy and the softness and everything that's going on. And I feel like that's something that's where life always holds us, like there's always a way, there's always something that is holding us, where we don't need to do anything and we can just receive and observe and be
Trust the
ourselves.
universe. Trust the universe.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I love this topic, and our goal is to hope. We hope that after listening to this conversation, is that you have a little bit more clarity on what your goals and why are, but more so having the tools, and knowing how to go about getting to know yourself better, so that you can better understand what that is. So again, we don't expect you to leave this conversation and have this completely new mindset and written down all these beautiful new goals. It's more just, oh, wow, yeah, you're right. My goals are very surface level, or I am ignoring a lot of what has gotten to me where I am now. So I'm going to have that intention of, I'm going to start doing the work, starting to take a first step, whatever that looks like and feels like is best for you, and beginning this journey that we hope is going to light your world on fire.
It's already lighting my world on fire. I love this, Gabrielle. Thank you so much for
Awesome,
sharing all of
Sarah.
this.
Thank you. We'll see you all soon, very soon, on our next episode.
Yeah, thank you for everybody watching here. And this is amazing, amazing work. And so happy that we're all here together in this series of eating from our empowered selves. And we'll see you in the next episode of our Food and Mood Talks.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.